Hi guys, Nomis here. Welcome back to Northam City for episode number 22. It's been a while in the city, but the race day patch broke a lot, which made me take a longer break from it. Finally, I'm starting to get it working again. I've come back to this build which I actually did before the patch. In this episode I'm filling a block which I've saved for a special build. I want to jump into Google Earth to take a quick look at the inspiration. So here we're over in Flushing in Queens in New York. And this was something I just stumbled upon while I was just looking for inspiration a while ago. And what you have here is basically a big mall and a parking garage, and then you have a bunch of apartments on top of it. And I thought this looked really quite strange and interesting, and I did a little research and I found that this is called something, it's called shops at Skyview, and these are pretty pricey apartments. So it would be, I thought it would be like a cool challenge to try to rebuild something like this. So I'm not gonna do like a one-to-one, but I'm gonna take a lot of inspiration just for the idea behind this thing. So I just want to take a quick look. Like, we have this pretty modern and funky looking mall building, and then in the middle here you have this parking garage, and you have more of the mall building, and you have some delivery areas, and all around you have a lot of these logos for the shops, which I'm definitely gonna be doing. And the interesting part is on top you have these modern condo buildings, and basically the rooftop acts as kind of like a park. We're definitely going to be doing something like this, a lot of green areas and paths and different park-like things, I guess. And we have here some tennis courts, definitely want to do that. And we're trying to look here in the middle, and I think this is a pool. So I definitely want to try to have some pools as well up there. And just looking at assets, actually some of the, I think it's called Railroads of Japan, the mall buildings from there kind of had the right fit. And I also found some other Japanese mall buildings from the workshop which had kind of the right look for this. Of course it has a lot of Japanese writing, but I can definitely cover it up, and it makes sense because Flushing is after all a very Asian neighborhood. There's a lot of Asian people here, so I guess the architecture maybe can resemble that, I don't know. Anyways, that is the inspiration, so let's just get back into the game and see how we can build that there. Back in the game, you saw at the start, I've been just dumping a bunch of Japanese mall buildings and these large parking garages. This is all just trying to make a larger building of a similar style to what we saw on Google Earth. Of course it looks a bit weird now, and there are still some Japanese writings which I will cover up bit by bit. Once I get everything placed, I start adding some details which makes it look like one cohesive building. In the end, using a PO cube with the modern tiled wall, I add an upper wall that ties all the buildings together, and will stretch up towards what will be the shared roof. Some of the mall buildings had nice and detailed air cons, so I closed this off with some concrete walls, and the complex on the rooftop will work around these. With the upper wall complete, I'll cover the roof with poppable pavement surfaces as a base surface to build on. On ground level I use a lot of these ground floor shop assets. I cover up a lot of gaps with different wall textures using PO and a bunch of door props. this side of the building, I decided to make the delivery area. Using a PO cube, I apply a nice and boring plaster wall texture as a base. Into the wall I place a bunch of these delivery bays, and also add some other doors for good measure. Finally, I fence the area in and place an industrial gate, detailing with a bunch of industrial clutter you would find in a delivery area, and roughing it up with stain decals. The apartments will have a few different entrances at the ground level, so add a bunch of doors with signs that signify this. I also make a big sign that says Skyview Mall, and paste this a few times around the building. For all the different shop logos for shops that populate the mall, I got this nice metal support and a lot of different shop logos from the workshop. I put them together in a sensible design and paste them around the building using Move It.
Always had a way to make it work and find another route. Always had a way to make it work and find another route. Always had a way to make it work and find another route. Always had a way to make it work and find another route. Yeah.
To nice up the ground level of the mall, I add these nice ground tiles and place a lot of planters and other nice details, giving it some life. Lastly, I get to building out the rooftop. I landed on these modern condo towers which will sit on top of the roof. Using building control, I make sure the buildings don't flatten the terrain, as this makes it more manageable to work with. Once I get the buildings placed, I set up the path network. For this to look right, I need a ground path, and I find the perfect height which I can set the rest to with Move It. With some INT magic, I add some nice tiles to the path. I use these great grass borders from big parking lots to create a border to the open grass areas. I also start placing the tennis courts and pools like I talked about. So sadly, this is where the build footage stops. I worked on this build back in February and only got to editing it recently. This is when I noticed the last bit of recordings with detailing is gone. I can't do anything about this, but I will load into the game and just go quickly through what I've done for detailing for the rest of the build. Okay, so now we're back in game. We can have a look at the final detailing, which I sadly didn't have the rest of the recording of doing, but can go through it a bit. You see it's a bit laggy here, which is why I don't do a lot of these live recordings and usually just pre-record and do the voiceover later. But anyways, I've filled out most of these areas with just the grass surfaces. I used just ploppable grass to fill out the rest of it. You know, added some details like these benches, and I have a little playground here with some sand surface, different plants, and I talked about having some entrance ways. So I've just mashed this together with different PO and props. And you have this door which goes into the rest of rooftop. I think in the inspiration they just have entrances straight, like directly into the buildings, but I wanted to see people walking around here, so this door is actually functional. This leads to any of the doors to the ground level, which has the signs here, which is condo entrance. So you say condo entrance B, and you have A and C, and there's a bunch of them around. And you have this here, and you have another one over here, which I think is also functional. So over here I finished detailing around the pool area as well. Add some nice tile decals and try to make it into like a nice scene, like a pool club for all the residents living in apartments up here. So here you have these, you have some people chilling in the sunbeds, and also here you have some extra sunbeds which are stacked like this, which is similar to what I've seen around pools and beaches, and just have some more planters and stuff like that. Then I have some more park assets just dotted around. And here with the tennis court, I added these public toilet assets, which I imagine is like changing rooms for anyone using the court. And I added this great animated tennis asset. You can speed it up a bit. You can actually see people playing tennis. And we have this tennis net here. Just love this little detail, and of course here from up here the resident can look down and have a nice view of the highway and all the homeless people living under the highway. Is kind of a very stark contrast between the economic classes, which is kind of a running theme in this city. I think this is a pretty dark but pretty cool picture. You can see very clearly the difference here. And let me get these icons above. So also filled in some blocks around just to the side, just to fill in a bit. I have 2 more condo towers here which are a bit taller. And then I just made it into like a little area here with some nice tiles and some tables. I think we might have added some shops in, maybe, or maybe it's just the tables. And then on the other side, we can get over here. Here on the corner, added this mixed-use apartment building, so I have some shops on the ground level. Just felt like a fit here and nice fit here. Then I added a small hospital, like a medical center, just local here. That was nice, and we have this road which goes around here. We have just a few ambulances parked. So that's kind of what I want to show. So anyways, thank you so much for sticking around to the end if you're still here. Really appreciate it. A like, comment, and subscribe would be greatly appreciated and will help me to grow the channel. I do also have Patreon in case you would wish to support me further. I'm really happy to be back here in Northam City, and I'm hoping to be here for a long time and hope you're sticking around to see more. And anyways, have a great rest of the day and stick around for a few cinematics of Skyview Mall.